And that's what happens when you clean up your desktop. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, hey, thanks for taking the time. I know you're busy too, but yeah, I just wanted to check in with you on a year, almost a year in, hey, for some of the FDM sockets you've been putting out.
It's a year. It's
Yeah,
over a year. I think July was the year. So
yeah.
where are we? We're September. Yeah. No,
So,
we're
but yeah,
yeah,
how
yeah.
many sockets is it now in a year's time?
Over 300, I've been told.
300 definitive TPU
Yep.
FDM sockets.
AK and I mean BK, but AK as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Take me through some of the stuff you've seen as a result of that. Like how have the patients been sort of
It's
experiencing the sockets themselves?
it's very it's nice, I guess, to see. It's very pleasing to see that we have a clinical enhancement with these sockets as opposed to just a fabrication trick.
Mm,
The patients happen to really like wearing these sockets. They feel much more comfortable. And again, that speaks more towards the flexibility of the material, right? We FTM print with a TPU
mm-hmm.
as opposed, right? So it's really just talking about the flexibility, which they're enjoying, they're appreciating, as opposed to the rigidity of a traditional,
Carbon
socket.
fiber.
Correct, or thermoplastic, or anything else. So that's the nice thing, that we're doing something that actually helps the patient, not just us. I mean, it's great that it helps us too, but it's one of those things that makes us feel good about that. Our patients literally are happier with the sockets, hands down.
That's fantastic.
It's not even like, and I've gone so far as to offer taste tests to some people, especially in the beginning. Like, we'll make you a traditional socket, and I'll make you a beast, and whichever one you like, you can go home with, and this
Wow,
one
really?
every single time, single time.
Wow. And it's cheap enough that you can do that. You can parallel your production streams.
That's part of the reason why it's such a good socket, because um, not only are they comfortable, but they're free to lose volume. When a prosthesis is comfortable, you're going to walk more, and we definitely see that. Patients who are more sedentary are definitely being more active, and in some cases, their limb volume has shrunk to the point that we need a socket replacement, where it would be too premature for insurance to reimburse at that stage. But because of the economics involved, we don't have to even, if a patient needs something, we're able to just reprint them. And it's
Yeah.
not something that, if we don't get reimbursed or whatever, that's okay. We're keeping them walking. So that cost factor is one of the reasons it's such a nice workflow for us. It's a nice option.
That's really cool. Yeah, for
But
sure. Because I
it's
have I
clean.
have one of these here from some of the samples you gave me.
Sure.
So, are you still using the exterior texturing and the latticing,
No,
the
we are not.
banding? Not anymore. Hey, so
That
it's
that
just
is
straight
the uh,
straight
that is
material.
the Beast version 1.3 you're holding there.
Yeah,
So
I think I even have a version one too. This was from the
that's a
course,
version. That's
but
a
that
version almost one. Yeah,
yeah, you quickly outgrew that
1.0.
one. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool, but you don't. So you're actually like you don't even need the design features themselves. The material is just sort of speaking for itself.
The material speaking for itself, and we actually found, that we were finding that the latticing on an FDM print were causing pores, micro pores within the print, um, which would inherently, again, it's the material speaks for itself, but you still want the design not to work against the material.
Of
And
course.
we found at that point that the design was slightly working against the material. It helped us, change our designs, which is also an
Yeah.
incredible piece of technology when
Wow.
when you're at that level.
So your patients love it, and your technicians must love it too because you've outsourced a huge component of their everyday job. They essentially get the part and they assemble, and they're in
Yeah,
the patient room within a few minutes.
we have an assembly line. That's exactly right, down to
Wow.
the millimeter.
Yeah. And no more dirty room, no more carbon, no more plaster.
We are clean. We are a clean room.
Yeah.
Clean room.
And so you've outsourced the production, but you haven't outsourced the design, and those two rarely get separated, but you're still able to maintain full design ownership in this new
Correct.
pipeline, right?
Yes.
And so your technicians are still doing their handiwork and clinical work. You're still doing digital design internally and owning that
Correct.
because and so your provider isn't in O&P, right? To be clear, he's sort of an agnostic
Right.
printer.
Wouldn't know a prosthesis if it hit him over the head. I mean, now he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he's learned a lot. But before that, no, they were excited to work with us. But they really didn't know that much about prosthetics, and that's the beauty. I always said, starting out, I never wanted to send my devices out central fab, right? Traditional. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
we've laminated, vacuum form, or modified because I felt that I was losing, like you say, ownership of the device, of the design. There's always, something lost in translation, and you don't have that in this case because we are doing everything on screen. We are designing not only the fit of the device, we are designing the wall thicknesses. So we're handing over a file. We have our trim lines, we have everything, we have our rotations. There's really no guesswork whatsoever. All we have to specify is the type of material we want, and then they take over.
Yeah. And they were excited to work with you as opposed to others, I'm sure, because you had done your homework, right? You
Yeah,
had designs. They didn't have to think about anything other than what they're good at, which is the printing aspect of it.
correct.
That's fantastic.
They got to run over a couple of hours just to test it on their end. They enjoyed that,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure another good old beast test.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
you wouldn't test the beast without running it over with a car or a truck. So
nice.
they got to
I
do
want to
it as
see that.
well.
I want to see that
Uh,
as a jig, as a certified jig.
exactly.
SUV going back and
Nice
forth all day.
gauge. Uh, we'll put somewhere, but maybe as a hood ornament on the car. But yes, it worked out really nicely for us.
Wow. What kind of design features have you noticed, or it's not design features, but you mentioned how the lattice was actually creating impurities within the print.
Mhm.
Was there anything else that you've noticed throughout the year of doing FDM printing that leads to a superior or inferior level product when it came to design purity? Or
Um, I would say for us, the lattice was a lot. Wall thicknesses, obviously, just speaks to the rigidity or the flexibility of the device. Um, Trim lines, again, everything has to be thought out properly. You don't want you, you can't have something thin out too much. Taper out, I guess, is really the word. Tapering, you need to be mindful of.
Mhm.
Um, and then not only to be mindful of tapering, you have to be mindful of where your seam is or what type of seam you're putting into an FDM print, right? It has every FDM print has some type of seam, some type of whatever, and that certainly does play a role, a factor uh, in the printing process. In
Yeah.
the
I remember you said that if you scatter a Z seam, you get way more impurities inside because it's like hiding the seam inside on the infill section, right? And so all of a sudden
correct.
you have no idea or no ability to control that. I found that to be super interesting. There's a lot of people in your space too doing like high flow nozzles. Have you had any experience with that or how that affects the outcome?
I mean, I have. We I used to print with pellets personally over here. Um, so it's a different animal, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
when you're printing with a high flow, it's really just a one pass usually, right? It's usually that's the bead that comes out is usually the wall thickness that you're getting. Um, so what we found, it's funny, the CAT scanner obviously besides detecting porosities, it could detect cracks, micro. We really are talking to the micron. It also is an X-ray machine. So what we like to do is, we could bisect the model in any plane we want, transverse, sagittal, frontal. And what we found is high flow prints, while you don't necessarily have the porosity issue because your nozzle is just going in one linear motion or circular motion, I should say, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing passes. You're not trying to go back, right? When your slicer, right? Your slicing can go in its own tool path. It's a much more straightforward tool path, perhaps with a high flow. Wall thickness. The thickness certainly varies a lot more than it does with a regular sliced FDM print.
Okay, so
So
like
we
like a
found,
point 0.8 nozzle or a
so for
point 0.4
instance,
nozzle.
yeah. So what we found is, and again, it's so funny because we just started playing with everything. I mean, we scanned laminations, we scanned vacuum formed, thermoplastic. We scanned MJF, we scanned ours, obviously. But at one point, we just had at it, just for fun, and we scanned high flow, and it's funny. Nothing is without everything has a flag. Everything has an issue that one should always be mindful of. And what we found in the high flow was that wall thickness definitely varied for whatever reason. I'm sorry, someone's calling me. That was something. It was more significantly than regular. Our wall thicknesses were a difference of, I don't know, a few microns, really. As and You could have a difference of a millimeter with a high flow,
Yeah.
which for us a millimeter is a lot now. It used to be it's a big deal, a millimeter. If you're designing for 4 millimeters and you're getting 3, that's a problem
Yeah.
in our game right now.
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
which is amazing, which is just fun to talk about, that we are talking about these small measurements now, but that's where we're at.
That's really cool. Well, I love what you guys have done with it. You believed in the technology and the approach so much that you invested on the front end into these machines. But then on the back end, the really exciting part is that you're now starting to do QC and some avid research into the outcomes of your FDM prints. And you bought a CT scanner, right?
That's right.
A CT scanner, one of probably the first, I think, in America, period, in a clinic that's being used and employed for sockets and devices. So, can you tell me a bit more about that and how that's changing up your workflow and your game?
um it's an amazing machine. I think we're the only OMP, at least according to the company that we're working with, um, who's employed this. um, it really allows us, number one, to refine our designs, where again you do things for certain reasons that you think you're going to improve upon. For instance, at one point we decided, we were told to scatter a seam. Right, scattering a seam would allow for more. Um, we wouldn't have any issues with suction. We do a lot of suction sockets, so we scatter the seam. We solve that problem. However, upon scanning, we noticed also, similar to latticing, that causes a lot more voids. Right, we
Mm-hmm.
scan for porosity. That's one of the things that these CT scanners helped us really work on, uh, removing the voids. Um, when we started, a typical, it's scary sounding. It's not, though. A typical socket could have had, I don't know, 300 micro voids on the socket. Again, we're talking about something the size of a white blood cell
Yeah.
picking up. So we're not talking about holes. But then again, you still want to make sure that everything is bonding. Now we're down to 10, 12, 7 on a typical socket.
Wow.
And again, that really just has to do with learning how to design properly, learning how to slice properly. Slicing is a whole other level
Yeah.
of digital design, which I'm lucky I don't have to get into that deep. But somebody is doing it for me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, even me, I get people to do that for me because that is a whole other depth over that
Yeah,
I don't have the time for. I'm still investing in mine.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, the scanners led us to really enhance the prints we have. It's allowed us to monitor the people who are walking. Again, it's always, you're checking what's under the hood.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that, why aren't we doing this for any time we fabricate? What's the difference? We found pores in laminated sockets. Big. It happens. There's But it's something that we felt we needed to do, just because the technology is so new
Mm-hmm.
and is still, so we made 300 sockets. People are walking on it. That's amazing, or we have wonderful results, but that's minuscule compared to the amount of people who are on laminated sockets.
Yeah.
Millions of people basically are on the conventional devices. So we felt that it was our responsibility to make sure that every device that we or having a patient walk on, we are making sure, to the best of our ability, is perfect inside and out.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
that's
again, and so that QC process is so heavy on the back end for such an affordable device. I love it. It sort of inverts the paradigm many people have otherwise been investing in. Let's invest in a $500,000 machine up front so we don't have to worry about anything on the back end, right? But it's like, no, well, you can actually do the opposite and get
yeah.
better results for yourself.
Yeah,
I'd
the
love
half a
to.
million dollar machines have problems too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hopefully the maintenance on these types of machines are not as bad for CT scanning. But a really cool part of this machine is that it lets you view the scans online through a portal. So if you're okay with it, let's jump in and let's
sure.
take a look at some of the sections here. All right. So,
Just make
okay,
sure
cool.
there's no names. There
Yeah,
should
exactly. I'll
be.
keep an out for it. So yeah, this is an online portal, and we can jump into any of the scans that this device that your machine has made. And I'm assuming your FDM provider is also in here regularly checking his
Yes.
prints and checking
Yep.
his work, right? So that's
Absolutely.
awesome. You can collaborate with people
Absolutely.
like me in Canada. You
Hmm.
can collaborate with him across the pond. So let's jump in. Which one do you want to look at first? You got a rodent socket
Wow.
in here.
I don't know. There's just so many to choose from. You could do the original Beast. That's a fun one.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll tell you a little bit about the original Beast. So the original Beast was literally the first Beast we ever printed. When we turned on, I don't even remember what FDM printer we had. We just had one out of the box. We bought a spool of TPU. I think it was probably from Amazon or something. And I don't. This never made it to anybody, but I think this was printed with infill, like 50% infill, and but it passed all of our tests. We drove over it with our car. My kids, I took this from my house because this is literally in my kids' playroom. They beat it with a bat. They throw it from high places. It's if you see it in real life, it's nasty. It's dirty. It's actually a white socket. You can't tell. We scanned it just for fun, and if you go to porosity, you ready for this? I love this one. Everything is a pore. Everything is a pore. You see that?
Wow.
You should not be. You should see a shadow. You should not see purple. There were so many pores.
78,409
How you like that?
895 pores.
How you like that? So just to give you an idea, if you go to the ROI one, and then you go to the drop down where it says 3D, and go to Cardinal Z.
Cardinal.
Go that way. That's also cool. You could see the infill.
Yeah. Like that's how, wow.
Yeah. And you could do an X or something if you want, or a Y plane. Just give you another view. See, it's all infill. You see the lattice.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow.
And but in the early days we were like, holy cow, this thing's amazing. I drove it over with my I ran it over with my truck.
Yeah. And it was fine.
Yeah. Again, it speaks to the isn't this amazing? I
Yeah.
love this.
The material itself. So
Yeah.
this is the porosity that we were seeing in the very beginning. So again, if we look at this, at the readouts on the side, so around 80,000 pores, a minimum of 0.05 cubic millimeters to a maximum pore size of 70 cubic millimeters.
Yeah, I mean
The
that
median
could
is
be
0.7, standard deviation 0.7. I mean, that's crazy.
Yep.
But again, the results were impeccable otherwise to the naked eye.
Yes.
Right?
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know.
Wow.
It's funny because especially the bigger sockets, there's a science which we're still learning how to position them. If they're too straight, then the X-ray passes the wrong way and slices it poorly. It needs a proper tilt.
Yeah.
Porosity. There you go.
Wow. So this is a good one. Yes, we're down to 3,000.
No, you don't. So even that, if you go to the some of this is also whatchamacallit, scroll up for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Some of this is like dust. So you have to limit it. So go up on the side, on the right side. You have to limit the. Okay, so you see what it says porosity? See that scale?
Yeah.
So you bring it even to like 0.6 or something.
Just drag this down.
Yeah. Something like there even. And then scroll down and you hit end limits complete. You see that above this, above the, there's a slider which says limit to range. Go up, stop. Yeah. Slide that limit to range.
Okay.
Yeah. Click that.
Oh, come on. I'm sorry.
Do it.
There it is.
There you go.
15.
Yeah. Meaning everything else was like smaller than 0.06 microns. It's nothing. It was like, some of it is like the tape we use, the dust or whatever. It's crazy what it picks up.
Wow. So this is FDM.
This is FDM. Yeah.
Wow.
You see the bottom? You see the bottom? That's a shadow. That's because it was placed too straight. It's not, again, it's a false read.
Okay, gotcha.
But I got to find a good one. It's funny, like we're still learning. Like the AKs are much more challenging. We find that we have to scan them in like 2 or 3 segments.
Yeah, I bet. This is just
They
so
just
big.
fit in the machine. But you get the idea. Look at this.
It's just solid. And then
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So these don't show up in porosities? Like
No, it's literally the first layer you're looking at.
Okay. Yeah. And that you can be forgiven for, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then it just goes through and you get a chance to see all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, because that's so nice to see, because when we were first looking at this, you were like, oh my God, there's so many pores everywhere. What do we do? And then it's like, oh, wait, false alarm. Oh, wait, we can just tune for this. Oh, wait, it's not even a problem anymore. So if you can see stuff like this, you're probably really happy, where it's just almost complete mass.
That's what it is. I mean, that's where we were dealing with. You see how there's a shadow on the bottom?
Yeah.
That you don't want in a scan. That means this wasn't like the best scan. Again,
Gotcha.
It's funny. I've also learned how to, I feel like I should work in a hospital now. Like a CT scan technician or radiologist.
Yeah.
Like you have to learn how to interpret like the X-rays basically in the data. You don't want to see shadows in these. It just means, I mean, it depends actually. A shadow could also mean something else. It could mean that there is a real void, but most of the time, especially on the flat, on the distal end, that just means that it was placed too straight. Didn't have enough of an angle.
Okay, gotcha.
Here, let's pull up a better one. I don't like this one even.
Okay. This is cool. There's a pre-saved view in this one with a bunch of callouts.
Yes. You like that?
Yeah.
And I was checking out wall
thicknesses. So 10 mils and 5 mils.
Which is what we were designing them for. Nice. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so let's just look around it for a second. Yeah, that was probably pretty. You see, there's we're not getting good ones today, but okay, let's look at the porosity anyway on that. It's definitely not black on the bottom, but it has a shadow at the edge.
Okay.
So hit porosity. She did it twice. I see she did it. Yeah, you see, you got the idea.
Yeah.
They're clean. And these aren't even good ones. I'm not even showing you like.
So this is an MJF socket?
No.
No.
You want to see an MJF now? This is
I can't tell anymore. It's just a shadow.
Yeah. Go to R&D again, and I think I have one marked MJF.
So how important do you think this step is for people who are looking to get into FDM 3D printing? Like, do you see this as being a fundamental part of the journey in order to do it properly, or do you feel like now that you've got a handle on it, it's actually, once you know, it's easy enough to move forward?
Well, to me, again, it's that's the problem with printing, is that it's a new technology. So until you have thousands of people on this, I'm the guy who's just nervous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah. So look at that. It has, but again, they're micro, and they all have them. They're different things. They're different places. And I'm sure if you move that slider to like 0.05 microns or something, you'll see less or any.
Yeah. 0.08. Yes.
Let's see what you got. And now go to end limit. Yeah, you have like 10 or something. What do you have? 16, right? So that's fine. So you see, like there was something called pores in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
With material, and you have to be cognizant. And all new technology has to be watched a little bit more carefully, I think. I don't know. We don't have studies 5 years down the line on FDM printing printed sockets, right? We probably have 2 years or 3 years, but or the people who get that far, we don't have large numbers yet. So until we can amass more patient trials and people walking and people utilizing it, there just have to be more safety measures in place. And then, eventually, once the technology proves itself, I think you can probably back off. There's I think that you're dealing with, if you like the benefits of FDM,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as anything the hands down. I get it. We all get it. There's no clear anything. Lamination can have its drawbacks. Plastic vacuum form can have its drawbacks. MJF can, and so can FDM. I guess as long as you're utilizing, something that's the road less traveled. Yeah. So look at this. This is cute. You could do inspection plane A. You could do look at the porosity. This is a high flow pellet.
Oh wow.
So there you go. That's fun, and
Yeah.
that's not a small pour either.
So
Everywhere else is great, right? It's very strong, but right where it counts,
it
right?
yeah, you were able to
You
find
got
it.
the ring of death. So that's number one, and number two, go to the inspection plane. One, you'll see.
There they are.
You see it. It just doesn't bond well over there. And it's not to say that, you do it again and it was fine, but I wouldn't want my patient walking on that,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't mean that 80 out of 100 are perfect, right? We're not saying that. Maybe 99 out of 100 are perfect, but I would hate to be that 99th patient. Go to inspection plane A. I may have done stuff. Now watch that. See that? Blow that up. That was fun to see. Remember I was telling you about the wall thicknesses? How thick is that?
Yeah, 3.3.
Yeah, I wouldn't want somebody walking on that. And that's
Yeah.
above the issue. And you could just see visually, look at the opposite wall. You can see that there is a variation of wall thickness on this,
Mm-hmm.
like considerable.
Yeah, and you couldn't account for that. It was like a single extrusion.
Yeah, and I remember when we used to do this, it's very hard to really maintain a dial in a wall thickness. It really has to do with your nozzle size and the speed you're pushing through, and that can't really be dialed into the micron, to the micron.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it really gives me a new appreciation for understanding what it means to have a high flow compromise in the material inside. Uh, this you can see it so clearly here.
yeah, yeah,
Wow. So if people wanted to, I've been teaching people how to get into 3D printing. FDM printing is the way to go for beginners, and here you are with these amazing tools and toys that are giving you the absolute definitive edge. I don't want people to think they need this to get into 3D printing, but they certainly need someone like you and the expertise you have for this kind of work. Do you offer people the opportunity to have their parts scanned and assessed? Are you looking
yeah.
at
Of course,
expanding that option?
absolutely. People can definitely contact us, and we're more than happy to scan their prototypes or their definitive devices. And again, I'm not here to scare anybody. I just think we don't want to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
know what you're making. You need to know what you're doing. And it's like I said, it's the same thing with conventional fabrication. Um, it Things have worked just because they're probably over engineered or overly made, but at the same time, right? Laminations are great. We do hear, I'm sure, of lamination here or there that does fail, but the majority don't, because we've done probably so much resin on these things and so much carbon that we don't have to really worry. Same thing with thermoplastics, but we've heard of issues with them too. And yet we're going to find, if we really start examining what's under the hood, that you will, you're going to find flags, I would call them.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that ability, uh, again, I'm a proponent of again, I don't, nobody has to go out and buy a big expensive CT scanner, but I do believe that our future as an OMP field, if we want to be, taken more seriously, if we want to know what we're doing and not have guesswork, I'm not a big believer in guesswork. We're dealing with anatomy. We're dealing with parts that are not, straight. We're dealing with organic parts mating up with machine, limb to device. We need to know as much as we can about the things we're putting on our patients. It makes them safer, and not only that, it enhances the devices we're putting on them. Again, it's giving us right now the capability to make more comfortable parts, because we are able to engineer our devices to give where they need to give,
Mm-hmm.
and to stabilize what they need to stabilize, and that's perhaps something we couldn't have done before. So again, we're going in a good direction as a field, and all these technologies are incredible, and it will ultimately lead to a better patient experience. But we need to be responsible at the same time, not just go headstrong in one direction and ignore perhaps certain potential risks or factors or issues that may come along if we're not cognizant of certain outliers.
Yeah. Well, hey, this has been a real eye opener. I think a lot of people are gonna just have their minds blown that this is a thing and that you can do this. I appreciate your willingness to share it all and what you've been doing, because yeah, you are again one of the first people to do this, and I would encourage anyone who's in this same space, who has questions, who is doubting the technology. Come drink the Kool-Aid with us. Come see for yourself what it's like on the inside and how you can improve it.
It's fun. You'll have headaches, I'll tell you that, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, and if not for you, for your patients too, right? It's everyone is really enjoying that part of it
Yeah.
specifically. Well, the thing broke my computer too, so.
Yeah. Happens.
Well, hey, thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for all your work in the field otherwise, and I'm really excited to share this with everyone and see if I can get you some more interest in what you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.